These new details change everything for the New York Mets as Eugenio Suarez trade rumors are heating up and the Mets are involved, but it has all changed and fans are absolutely shocked and excited, at least they should be, and we're going to discuss exactly why only here on Mets Digest. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. We'll talk Eugenio Suarez and these trade rumor updates with the Mets, but first we got to talk about some subscribers, and that being that 68.9% of you that watch these videos aren't one. So please do me a favor, just a favor here on Mets Digest, and hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into this. We have a ton of updates with Eugenio Suarez, starting with yesterday where the update said that the Diamondbacks have been scouting the New York Mets AA affiliate, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, for a potential deal for Eugenio Suarez. Andy Martino, an SNY insider, furthered this by saying, quote, "That does not necessarily mean the talks between the teams are hot, but Arizona also has pitching to sell." Now, David Stearns has publicly said on multiple occasions how much of a need pitching is for this team and how he is really going to focus on maybe a starter or two, but most certainly some bullpen help. And Arizona has pitching to sell, so that would make an Eugenio Suarez deal even more of a potential, right? Well, let's hear a little bit more from Martino before we discuss that answer, as of course Martino is from SNY, saying, quote, "The Arizona Diamondbacks have been scouting the Mets AA team for a potential deal for third baseman Eugenio Suarez," league sources say. That does not necessarily mean that talks between the teams are hot. In fact, the D-backs are also, quote, all over the Yankees system right now, according to sources. Arizona also has pitching to sell, but those scouts following Binghamton are reminders that we shouldn't totally rule the Mets out on trades for position players, even as they focus much of their energy on upgrading the bullpen in advance of the July 31st trade deadline. So, it's obvious, the D-backs are selling. Look at this tweet. The Arizona Diamondbacks are expected to trade 5 to 6 more players following the Josh Naylor deal from last night. So, why would they not move Suarez? I think Suarez would be a great fit to the Mets, right? Nope. It is all thrown away, as John Heyman last night said, quote, "The Mets are not in on Suarez. Their priority is bullpen, but a starter and a center fielder wouldn't hurt." So let's turn it now to a Sports Illustrated author, that being Pat Ragazzo, who says, quote, "The New York Mets appear unlikely to land one of the biggest names on the market." According to John Heyman of the New York Post, the Mets are not in on star slugging third baseman Eugenio Suarez of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, Arizona is selling, but the Mets instead want pitching and a center fielder. As he goes on to say, quote, "The Diamondbacks began their sell-off on Thursday night by trading first baseman Josh Naylor to the Seattle Mariners. Suarez should be one of the next deals they make, as the power hitter is one of the most highly sought-after position players on the trade market. But don't expect the Mets to be involved, per Heyman. Instead, the Mets are prioritizing bullpen and could land a starting pitcher and a center fielder as well." And normally, I would say, yes, I get it. That's what the media is saying, but, GMs, they have their own minds. They think their own way. Their teams, they think a certain way. They might say X, Y, Z to the media, but in reality, they go out and do something completely different. But we've heard from Stearns on multiple occasions that starting pitcher is someone that they might get. They might want to go out and get a center fielder, but the main focus is the bullpen, and they followed that up today by getting Gregory Soto. So I trust Stearns, and I trust these insiders that Stearns is giving the media what he actually does plan on doing. I don't think he's lying in any capacity or even upselling the truth or downselling the truth. I think what he's saying is the truth. So I don't think Eugenio Suarez is coming to the New York Mets. And yes, that is not good, because look at that OPS. 918, 36 dingers, 86 RBIs, right? That's incredible. I agree. I think those stats are great. But I personally am super, super stoked that the New York Mets are not going out to get Eugenio Suarez. Why? It's a contract year. He will be a free agent at the end of the year. And take a look at this. Anyone remember this? The Mets really gave up PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, for 2 months of Javi Baez in 2021 when they ended up missing the playoffs. Baez left in free agency, and now PCA is turning into an MVP candidate. Yup, that is exactly what we are going to get if we trade for Eugenio Suarez. Great, because look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Trading Javi Baez for Pete Armstrong was one of the best trades our Cubbies have ever made. You know how long the Chicago Cubs have been a franchise? Yeah, look at those numbers from PCA. Yeah, look, he's second in MVP odds for the National League. It's very obvious. Hold on to your really, really good prospects, because the Mets for years were saying Pete Armstrong is going to be awesome. He's the center fielder of the future. And then they trade him for a rental in Javi Baez. Yes, Trevor Williams ended up pitching in 2022. Oh, well, they got cash too. You gave up such a good prospect. You gave up this guy for a rental Javi Baez, who wasn't even having a great year. That's why I understand an Eugenio Suarez trade maybe a little bit more, because he's at least having a great year. He's got 36 homers. He's got a 918 OPS. So nope. I agree. We've been down this road before. We've been down the PCA road where we traded a big prospect for a rental, and I'm glad. Let's keep these guys. Jet Williams, he probably won't come up this year. Probably these guys that say 25, Williams and McLean and Sproat will probably be up in 2026, but Williams is a stud. Jonah Tong is absolutely scorching his way through the minor league system. He might be in the majors next year. McLean is a stud. Carson Bench is going to be awesome, and Brandon Sproat has started to find himself in AAA. Why would you trade any of these guys for a rental in Eugenio Suarez, no matter how good he's doing? I completely agree with this. I do not want Eugenio Suarez because it's going to be a high price in return. I don't want to give up such a price. I like the David Stearns mentality. Let's go out and get some pieces that we need, but not necessarily the biggest splash. And Eugenio Suarez is probably the biggest splash that this year's trade deadline has to offer. So good for the Mets. I don't want Suarez. Of course, I'd love him statistically, but I don't want to give up what it takes to go out and get him. I like Stearns' approach. Go out and get these smaller name guys and give up prospects that are not in your top 5, and don't give up guys that are MLB ready and these big pieces on the New York Met team. But with that comes a little bit more. So we're going to shift now to the center field talk, because obviously the Mets do want to get a center fielder. If they get any position player, it will be a center fielder. So look at this tweet. The New York Mets are among the handful of teams to have checked in on White Sox center fielder Luis Robert. No. Do not get this. Why, you want to replace Tyrone Taylor because you don't think Tyrone Taylor is an everyday hitter, right? Okay. Why would you replace a 206 hitter with a 206 hitter? Tyrone Taylor has a 206 average. Luis Robert has a 206 average. Why would you replace one guy with literally the same guy? I get it. Robert has a little bit more power. His OPS is better, and people are going to look at his advanced metrics and say, oh, he's unlucky. His expected batting average is better. You are hitting 206. Your OBP is below 300, and you have a 636 OPS. No. Do not get Luis Robert. Absolutely not. As let's turn it back to Ragazzo, who says, quote, Cedric Mullins of the Baltimore Orioles and old friend Harrison Bader of the Minnesota Twins are two other center field options that fit the Mets. As for bullpen help, and we'll get into this because plenty of videos to come on the bullpen rumors and, of course, any trade that Stearns pulls off. David Bednar would love that. Dennis Santana, Danny Colombi, Johan Duran, who I wouldn't mind, and Mike Soroka, who I also wouldn't mind, are names that make sense for the Mets. The Mets are in the hunt for multiple relievers, preferably in the high leverage department. So, again, bullpen videos are coming soon. We will talk that bullpen, but for now, we're going to focus on the center fielders. Mullins, all right, maybe I'd go out and get him. Bader, I wouldn't mind either. I don't necessarily want these guys. If the Mets go out and get anybody as a center fielder, I want this guy. I want Steven Kwan. Because when you look at the Mets, you have the big four. You have Nimmo, you have Soto, you have Alonso, and you have Lindor. Lindor is your 2-hitter, Soto's your 3, Alonso's your 4. Nimmo, I know he's been in the leadoff spot and he's been red hot. He should be your 5-hitter. Steven Kwan, the perfect leadoff hitter. Then you have Kwan, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, McNeil in the 6, and then you have Beatty, Alvarez also in the mix, Ronnie Mauricio. That's a pretty good lineup if you ask me. So if the Mets go out and get any outfielder, I want Steven Kwan from the Guardians. But he is, in fact, on a team that is 500. Cleveland is 500 right now, 51-51, 3 games out of the wild card, chasing 3 teams and only 8 back in their division behind the Detroit Tigers, who have been one of the best teams in baseball. But Kwan is so appealing, just over $4 million for his contract. And the Padres, Phillies, and Dodgers have all been reported to be interested and connected with him, as it looks like Cleveland might give up on him. So I think the Mets need to just jump right in on Steven Kwan. But let me know, do you agree? Give me your thoughts down below. Do you like Kwan as the potential center fielder for the Mets? What are your thoughts on Bader? Do you like Mullins? Are you someone that likes Luis Robert? Well, tell me down below. We'll talk a ton of pitching going forward. And of course, tell me your thoughts on the overarching theme of today's video. Are you happy that the Mets are not going to get Eugenio Suarez? Of course, statistically, I'm upset about that. But in the grand scheme of things, in the realm of things, I don't want to trade multiple top prospects for a rental. We've been down that road with PCA. So let me know if you agree down below. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you in today's video. Thank you so much as always for watching, and let's go Mets.